What's up, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. I'm not trying to do a catchphrase this week, Dave, because they have sucked the last 2 weeks. It's not happening. So I hope everyone's doing well on this Monday, February 6th, 2023. Before we get into all the fun stuff, make sure you like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes, spread this word of mouth, and go find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals. We are everywhere. You can't miss the logo. Last week, Dave, we had an awesome show. We had head XC coach from CBA, assistant indoor and outdoor coach, Sean McCafferty on. We talked about a lot of good stuff. He's a great track mind. Dispelled some rumors about CBA that I hope other coaches will come and play nice with them now because Sean's a nice guy. So he doesn't bite, I promise. But we had a great time doing that. We have a lot of things to jump through, so we're going to speed through. First, Dave, what's up, brother?
And I'm just in awe every week when I go on all these track sites and see the results in high school and college and pro. It's the times that people are running now are just absolutely mind-boggling every week. And just to see all these new great track places, like how they redid the track in Boston, like that these kids and adults and women and men have so many great places now to run and train. I just wish that we can get more of these things for the outdoor season like we have for the indoor season, to give everyone here a chance to stay here in America and just run fast.
The New Balance Grand Prix was lots of fun. And like you said, the results from high school are insane. Like, it kind of blurs the lines right now of college and high school results. It really does. And I think the happiest people on the planet are like your smaller D1, D2, D3s, because their top kids that they're getting are still ridiculously fast. So speaking of fast, we have a ton of PRs again this week, which we're pumped about. Keep on sending them to us. We're going to start off with the big congratulations, Manchester Township High School. Coach Griff over there winning back-to-back Group 2 sectional championships. Nick Lafredo with a monster triple in the 16, 832, getting second, and third, 418, 159, and 938. Will Freeman over there runs a 400-meter indoor school record, 50.71, finished third place in 3 events. And Joey Curick, first in the 55 high hurdles at a 7.84. There were plenty of other people that contributed. They had a high jumper that got third, pole vaulter that got second, but just a fantastic all-around performance. Pumped for my alma mater to be really getting put on the map again, because we are a proud running tradition. Also, South Brunswick, PRs, we got some from over there. Jason Kaiser ran a 7.67 in the 55 high hurdles at the Varsity Classic. And then Demarion Potts, long jumps, a 23-foot-3-inch at the Princeton Invite last Monday, which is incredible, Dave. 23-3. That's stupid. I'm not going to lie.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I also have a few at Lacey at the Toms River Girls Freshman Championships. Olivia Miller runs 7.89 in the 55, first time under 8 seconds. And Sammy Sabuco runs a 5:53.46 in the 16. It's her first time under 6. And a huge school record coming tonight from our buddy at Westfield, the team of Tage Meta, Joe Piero, Johnny Scalia, Avery Keith. Like I said, school record DMR. They ran 10:14 DMR tonight at the Varsity Classic. Crazy enough, that actually only got them second place. School record, Westfield, 10:14. I couldn't imagine being on a team that ran 10:14 in high school DMR.
And you had some great teams at South, man. So that's ridiculous for you to say that. And right behind them at 10:15 was our buddy we mentioned, Sean McCafferty and his boys from CBA. So lots of fast times, Dave. But we also have somebody, our guest today, someone that is not foreign to fast times. We are pumped to have on Sara Slattery, 10-time Arizona State champ, 4-time NCAA champ, former pro runner, and one of the few women in the NCAA that was a head coach for both men's and women's teams, which is extremely difficult. And important now, the author of the How She Did It book, co-written with Molly Huddle. What's going on, Sara?
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I'm really honored to be on the podcast. I'm married to the infamous New Jersey runner, Steve Slattery, who's a very proud New Jerseyan. So I enjoy listening to all the stories about New Jersey high school running, and I think your guys' podcast is awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And, we're fortunate, if astute listeners know that we had Steve on a few episodes ago, but, Dave and I both know, Steve will probably admit, there's a reason why our wives and our significant others are called our better halves. So right now we're getting the better of the two shows right now. But no, we loved having Steve on. It was great.
That was
awesome. We just want to jump right into it. One thing we ask every runner: what started it for you, Sara? What was the aha moment, the spark of, I'm pretty damn good at this running thing and I think I want to do it? When was that moment that you thought to yourself that this is going to be what I do?
I grew up playing a lot of sports. I played basketball, softball, like any soccer. I was on a co-ed soccer team, grew up in the 80s. So like not a lot of girls sports, but my parents, I grew up in Arizona, so it's super hot. And I started rec swimming when I was about 6. And I started getting very competitive and had some success. And so then ended up becoming joining the club team around age 8 and started swimming year round. And I really thought like my big goal was to swim in college and to make an Olympic team. And so I swam pretty competitively, and I was doing doubles through middle school. And a bunch of my friends from swimming were running cross country and track, and I had a bunch of friends that were off that not swimming that were also doing it. So they encouraged me to try it. And it was like a 6-week program in Arizona. And so I tried it out and had I always did well in the timed mile and PE. Usually it would be most of the boys and girls like in my PE class. And I think that was the first time I really saw that I was pretty good at it, but I still felt like I was a swimmer. So this running thing wasn't that fun for me. It was hard. It was like I didn't really enjoy it right away. So it was around the end of beginning of high school. I ended up swimming the fall season instead of running cross country. And then in the track season, the cross country coach and the track coach kept trying to get me out to come out for the team. And because I had won the middle school championships and run like 5, I think in middle school I ran 5:30 in the mile. And
that's impressive.
And ran like I can't remember what I ran for 800, probably like 2:30 or so, like 2:25, 2:30. So they wanted me on the team. I was still so I didn't do the cross season, decided to do the track season, didn't tell my swim coach. He really didn't want any of us running. So I did both that season and ended up, when I was in the swim season, I think I made the finals for the state meet, but was like top 8 in like 3 events. But it was a stretch to make that, make the finals for that. And then my first year running track, I was second at the state meet in the 8 mile and 2 mile. And so my dad really sat me down, and
He's like, what are you doing?
He's like, you're putting a lot of time into swimming and not much into running, and you're already a lot more successful. So I think you should probably think about that. So that summer I did club track. I was the only distance girl on the club track team. I didn't really understand how club track worked, but went to the Junior Olympics that summer, and and then joined cross that next season and made my first Foot Locker team. And I continued to swim, but not at the same level until about the end of junior year. So I'd swim and run, but mostly was more serious about running after that.
So you had your swim season was in the fall?
Mm-hmm. Our swim, I know in New Jersey it's
New Jersey, it's a winter time. Yeah. Now, did they have winter track, or was it just cross country and spring track?
No, so they just have cross country and spring track, and they have you can join the running club in between, and it's kind of like an off season base phase that you would just do and meet a few days a week and run. So my high school coach would do more.
So was your first time ever running on an indoor track in college?
No, I actually ran the Melrose Games my senior year. Yeah, I was actually with Shalane Flanagan, and it was her and I with we were neck and neck with like 2 laps to go on the 150-meter wood track.
The old wooden track at the Garden. Yep.
And I actually made a rookie mistake and tried to cut early and tripped. And so like I fell on the wood track and she ended up winning. But that was my first time ever running indoor. Wow. And then college was like my second time.
So it's weird because, like here, Northeast, like winter track is a big thing. Like there's so many.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you think it's hard? Do you think it's hard to keep your kids healthy all 3 seasons?
Not as much now because the facilities are so much better now. Yeah. But when it was like when
running
when
on gym floors and stuff like that,
160-meter tracks, or you're running on like rubber, but it's not track rubber. Yes, I definitely felt that it's harder. But I feel like so many coaches now, it's just the way of life here. Like so, you don't run. A lot of coaches won't run nearly as many meets during the indoor season. Because it's still cross country and spring track are still the main events, but it's definitely gotten a lot bigger, and with everything just improving, shoes, spikes, tracks, it definitely seems like there's less injuries now. But we used to get a lot of kids that would be kind of burnt out by the end of spring track when they would go all out fall, all out winter, all out spring.
So I have to ask this. So from someone that didn't run a lot of indoor outside of, Millrose and everything, do you remember the experience of trying to breathe in your first indoor meet? Because I always, told, my seniors told me when my first indoor, and I told some people when I was over at Marist College, I coached for a little, I was thankful enough that my coach brought me back, and we had some kids that came from like California and Florida, and they're just like, what is this indoor thing? And I would just flat out say to them, like, just run. Don't worry about breathing. Don't actually try, because then it's going to suck. Like, do you remember what that felt like the burning in the first time, like that burning in your chest from an indoor race?
I didn't really feel the burning while I was racing. It was always like the hack afterwards. Like you would have like that throat burn and like cough. And we often at Colorado, like our rust buster was at 7,000 feet at the Air Force Academy. And it was brutal. Like that, you're up at altitude in the dry air in an indoor facility. Like it would be awful. And then as a coach, like when I was coaching, I would always bring Jolly Ranchers for after the races. And the athletes were like, what's that for? And I was like, just wait, like
you'll find out.
So they'd all be excited about the Jolly Ranchers, but it really did like coat your throat so you don't have that hack.
So you're in high school. What was it like the first time going to Foot Lockers? Like, and that's the first time you actually met Steve too, right? Was that Foot Locker? Was that your senior year?
So it was my sophomore year. I made it Steve's senior year. And that was the first time we had met. We became friends with, I think that weekend I hung out with Ian Hahn and Steve and a couple of the girls. Like we ended up doing a bunch of stuff together, like going to like different things in the hotels and getting ice cream and different treats. But like, it was, I made a lot of friends. It was eye-opening. Like I didn't have any experience. I had done the Junior Olympics that summer, but it wasn't super competitive. So it was like a different level, and just kind of knowing like what I needed to do to like step up. I ended up finishing, it was the first year they had it in Florida, and it was super rainy and muddy, and I'm not a mudder. So I'm more of a track style runner. So it was for me. I ended up like 17th, and I remember it just motivated me to want to be better. And so, and it was also like, wow, these girls are really good. Like, this is the next thing I need to do. Like, kind of like I was serious, but like, I knew there was things I could do to be a little bit better as an athlete. So it helped me kind of push me along to want to keep improving and be at the tops. And then it was also really fun to get to meet other athletes that from around the country. And it was mind blowing that they flew you out there and gave you all these things. And got to stay in a hotel. Like I didn't come from like a really wealthy family. So like my parents weren't even able to like come out to the meet with me. So I was kind of there on my own. And it was just really, yeah, eye opening and exciting. And it really kind of made me realize like I wanted to focus on this and be good at what I would be good and put the time into what I needed to do to be the best. So
awesome. Obviously you had some like good memories from like your high school time and thing like that. Go into memory lane a little and just recall for us like some of those other memories, some of the ones you haven't mentioned, like go through your career in your head a little bit, and just kind of give us a few memories and moments that you really want to highlight that maybe you haven't thought of in a few years, or, maybe as a coach, it's different because you did coach. When you're coaching, you kind of bring them all back, right? To give examples to your athletes of things that you used to do, but kind of recount some memories, some of your favorite times from running in your career.
Yeah. So I think some of the best memories, like my freshman year, we won the first NCAA championship for Colorado. Mark Wetmore, who is also a famous coach from New Jersey.
Yep.
But he, when I was looking at colleges, like it was really important to me. At the time, there weren't a lot of girls. There was a lot of high school phenoms, and I was one of the best girls in the country coming out when I was a senior. And I was observing all of these girls going on to college and not really improving. And it was scary to me. Like I did not want to be one of those girls, and I wanted to continue to improve and get the most out of myself and hopefully be able to continue running. And so I was really looking for a program that improved their athletes, like continue to improve their athletes, and a coach that really cared. And I felt like that with Mark. And when they hadn't won any championships, but they'd had like Adam Goucher had won an individual NCAA title. Kara Goucher was really coming on, and I really wanted to be a part of a program where there was other women that were going to push me and help me be a better athlete. So I was really excited to like have that at Colorado and also have a coach that fostered that. So it was amazing my freshman year. I mean, we ended up winning the NCAA title, but it wasn't like glamorous. Like I got mono that season. It wasn't, like Kara won, our team won. I had mono and I wasn't really sure if I was going to run that season. And I ended up convincing Mark that I really wanted to run so bad because I knew we had a great team. And so I ended up 8th with mono my freshman year. Wow. And our women won. So that made me feel like I made a good choice. And then, and it wasn't easy. The whole, like, I didn't have like I had a lot of success. Like I was a 4-time NCAA champ and was a 10-time All-American, but I had several injuries along the way. And it was a bumpy road. It wasn't a smooth, straight line of trajectory there, but I think I learned a lot, and I really appreciated the relationship Mark had with me and all of my teammates to like really make sure that he cared about me as a athlete, but also as a person. And I think that's like that's probably as key as a coach. Like he has a master's in psychology as well. And so I think he's really good on those relationships with the athletes and getting them to buy in and caring about each person. And I mean, his training is great. But he would always tell us like, I could write this training out for anyone. But the key piece is the people here and what we're trying to do as a team. So, I think that's where he separates himself from other coaches.
It's always fascinating, Dave, we've had the blessing of talking to a lot of elite level athletes right now, and it's always fascinating. Like, everyone, all runners, if you're a runner, you go through the injuries, you go through the trials and tribulations. And here we have, these great athletes, four-time NCAA champ, 10-time All-American. It's like, yeah, I didn't have that much. It was tough. And it's like, for some of us here, it's like, I would have loved to made it to like an NCAA championships, let alone win. So it's like, I guess the mindset of someone at that caliber is different in terms of wanting more. You know what I mean? Like, just because I'm successful doesn't mean I'm satisfied. And it goes to show, because you had a pro career. Kind of talk about your experiences as a pro, because I think a lot of young runners out there, understand that it's kind of difficult, because being a pro track runner isn't all that glamorous at all times. There's a lot of grinding and hard work. And unless you're one of the top names, it is pretty damn difficult. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah. And I think like that mindset, like you're saying, never being satisfied can be a blessing, but also a curse at the same time. So it's really important to like, to cherish those things that like when you have victories and success, like make sure you like celebrate those things and appreciate them. And I think that's something that both Steve and I have talked about. Like we didn't do enough at the time. And we, like you're just kind of looking for that next goal. But I think now you can see like, and I think that might have been a hindrance to our, like, we may have gotten more out of our pro careers if we had that mindset. That's something that we really like, I talk a lot about with some of my athletes as well. But I think as a pro athlete, like, the thing that when we were coming out into the professional career, there weren't a lot of options in terms of like what you could do with training groups. There's a couple of training groups and the rest you're kind of figuring out on your own. So I kind of wish I would have had more of a support system in that next step, either with a team or a coaching environment that helped foster that. We ended up like getting advised by our coach. Like we both got advised by our coach, but they weren't there day to day when we first graduated, and we both ran really well. And then we felt like we needed something else, and we joined some groups, but it just wasn't the right fit for both of us. So I think if we would have found like a better team environment, it probably would have helped us have longer careers. But yeah, like the professional running career or the life of a professional runner isn't super glamorous. It's a lot of training and not to, like you're, I think often you're like a small business, you're an independent contractor. So you're figuring out your contracts, you're doing your own travel. You figure out where you want to spend your money in terms of like resources. You're not a college athlete anymore where you get, like a team doctor, a sports psychologist, like physical therapy, all those things. Yes. Someone that does your travel and you just show up. So you have to figure out all those things. And so that's a learning process. And then now, like, we didn't even have this when we were athletes, but like social media was just coming on when I was graduating college. Like they just started Facebook. And so we didn't have the job of the social media part of it as well, which I think it can be a great resource because fans can get to know you better as a person. Yeah. And you can be your biggest advocate, but it can also be hard too, I'm sure, in terms of like creating your brand and keeping up with those things all the time. And maybe you don't want to have everyone knowing everything about you. So It's figuring out that balance with that. But social media is a big part of being an athlete now.
We see Sha'Carri Richardson. I think she's an incredible talent, but I just think like that drive of social media and the kind of building her brand and wanting to like be acknowledged more, it's kind of, I think, hurting her a little bit because, man, she's so freaking fast. Like, just stop listening to everyone. Like, don't read all the replies. Like, that's one thing I would just like, if I'm Sha'Carri's coach or friend, just be like, focus on running. You can be one of the all-time great female sprinters ever.
Hide the comments.
Hide them all. Like, but you talked about how you think you would have had longevity. Like, your PRs are no slouch, especially like your 10K sub 32 in the 10K. For the 5K 15:08. Like, incredibly fast for what you had. So you just think that you maybe could have had a little bit better time if you would have had what we have now, where we have, like, over here in New York, New Jersey, we have NJNY Running Club, Empire, Garden State. Like, we have a whole bunch of these clubs, the Brook Beast out west. Like,
Yeah.
you just think that you would have definitely had if you would have had more of a cohesive group, it would have helped you.
I think just having, someone advise you day to day and help you through those things, like, it's just helps you not overthink or overlook things, and just gives you a better perspective. Sometimes you're too involved in it to like be able to make good decisions for yourself. So you need someone outside of there to like help guide you through that. So yeah, we just didn't have options for that at the time. And so yeah, I think that would have helped. In hindsight, would have helped a lot. But you just do the best that you had. I think the reason I say that is like my PRs were run the first 2 years out of college, and then I kind of struggled with injury and overtraining, and a lot of that overtraining and not recovering, I think, was my fault as well. I just wanted to push the boundaries. So that's where I felt like if I would have had someone like advise me and just keep building slowly, it would have been a lot better. But I just, you want to be the best. So you kind of put like, I was someone that would always cross over the edge.
And we can all say, like, post-college, you're still not a real person yet, right? Like, you just went through 4 years of not having any real responsibility. You thought you were an adult, but you really weren't doing anything. And now you're out and you're 23, 24, and you really haven't gone through anything yet. So,
traveling all over the world.
Yeah. And you're coming out, and it's like a blessing, right? Because you guys are coming out in the best shapes of your lives. So that's why within those first 2 years, you were able to do it. Now, I want to jump into our next topic because I'm extremely interested about this.
Oh, very excited.
You, along with another great American female distance runner, Molly Huddle, co-wrote a book, How She Did It, where you talk to some of the greatest female runners around the world and kind of jumped into the perspective of a female runner, not just, and their stories. What was the inspiration that you guys got for writing this book? Kind of give us more of a synopsis, because I don't think I gave it justice. Give us a little more of a synopsis of what to expect if you pick it up, which everyone should go out and pick up this book. And also, what was the inspiration? What was that conversation that was like, let's do this?
Yeah, there had been, so Molly and I have been good friends since college. Like, I've known her since I was like a sophomore and junior in college, and she was a freshman. And we got to know each other really well. And then post-collegiately, she would always come out to Arizona and train, and her husband and my husband are good friends. He was really good friends they both ran at Notre Dame, and he was good friends with Ryan Shea and a bunch of the guys, Luke Watson, that trained at Notre Dame. And so they would always come out, and we would spend a lot of time together, and we started to become really good friends. And we started hearing a lot more stories, and this had been going on since we were in high school, but like negative stories of women in the sport and their experiences, and how the sport had been, kind of hard on their body and not like allowed them to like continue feeding like the Foot Locker curse, as a lot of people call it, where there had been for a while, there had been no locker champion that had won an NCAA title. Molly Huddle did change that, and a few others have gone on to do that now. I think Caitlin Tui. Yeah. And so, and then there had also been never, I think there's only been 2 women that have ever won Foot Locker and made an Olympic team. And it was Molly Huddle, and then a woman in the 80s who made the marathon team. And so we were talking, and we're like, we're seeing these stories, but we know so many women that have had incredible journeys in the sport, and it has brought so much to them. And they continue to love the sport throughout their life. And I think it would be great, to create, both of us, like when we were in high school, we were both searching for more information on how, like I told you, like when I was going into college, I really didn't want to go to a system that I would peak in high school where I wasn't developed in college and beyond and be able to run. And so I think like I was always looking like, why is that? Why is that happening? Like, are there things that I can do to prevent that? Like, what are these key like things that are missing? And so we were like, we need to write a book on all the things about like the key pieces that you need as an athlete to be successful. So like nutrition, psychology, sports psychology, physiology, your hormone health. So we had like 8 experts write those pieces, bone health. And then the second, so it's kind of like a recipe book for having longevity in the sport and being healthy. And then the second half is the women and the women in our sport that have gone on to have successful careers at the high school, college, and post-collegiate level, and what they, and most of those women, like their success wasn't a straight line of trajectory either, and the things that they faced and how they overcame those things and why they love the sport so much. So we really wanted it to be a great resource for high school athletes, parents, and coaches, and hope that it could help give them knowledge and give them information that would help them to be successful long term.
Wow. Now the list of athletes that you have is amazing. How did you go about contacting all these people, or was it kind of like you got one and then someone else said that they would like, did it kind of snowball, or did you guys really have to go out there and like pick and choose?
Honestly,
Dave, do that research to help us so we can get all those ladies too.
So our list was actually like twice as long. We didn't think that was a problem, but our publisher did. And so they were giving us a hard time. We needed to dwindle that down. And so we did over 80 interviews on Zoom over COVID. And I think our threshold was like, they had to make a world championship or Olympic team. They had to have like at least 10 years in the sport. So like show longevity, some sort of longevity in the sport. And we wanted to have it be diverse, we had it from the 800 to the marathon. So in different events, distance events, and then different countries, different ethnicities. So we wanted like girls to be able to connect with at least a few stories of different women in there so that they could feel like they understood those athletes. And so yeah, that was our goal in writing it, but it was very difficult to just narrow it down to even 50 because we had several more women that we wanted to keep in there. And we actually have a website that we're adding more information. Even the expert pieces, we had to like cut out a lot of really good information. So we're adding those like more information onto our site as well as some of the interviews. I know.
A second book, how she still does it. There we go.
We've thought about even doing like different events, like sprints or different, sprints, jumps, like all the track events. Yeah, there's plenty of spin-offs you could have on this one.
So did you?
I just love. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, sorry. Did you find that when you were interviewing a lot of these women, Dave and I are obviously men, so we don't know the challenges of being a young woman in high school, going through puberty, and a lot of the changes that women do. Did you find any universals with when you interviewed the women about their time of their body changing, going through puberty, or going into motherhood and possibly having a kid and wanting to jump back in and compete at a high level? Did you find that there were similarities, or were there a lot of differences there?
Well, we were afraid because we used 12 questions, the same 12 questions for every athlete. And so we wanted to make it interesting we were hoping, and it did turn out this way, that we would like different things with each athlete would pop out. So we had like, they would answer more thoroughly on certain ones and like have more interesting stories on certain questions. So, there were a lot of similarities. Honestly, the biggest one was like nutrition and making sure you're fueling enough. That's like a common theme. I think it's a common theme in women, but it's a common theme in our sport in general. And I think we're a high energy output sport where fueling is very, very important. And so learning that when you're young is a vital part of staying healthy. And so I think that was a big common thread with the women and men in general. Like me as a college coach, I saw it across the board, men and women not eating enough for what they were running.
That's definitely there. So go ahead, Dave.
I just think it's great how you encompass so many different eras. Like it's not just the modern woman distance runner. You went back and you interviewed people from history, and that just shows. Like, did you notice that there were different responses based upon the age and the time in which they grew up?
Good question.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting interviews are the mother-daughter combos that we did with Liz McGulgan and her daughter Elish and Cheryl Twergy and Shalane Flanagan. I think you can see in both of those women, like both of those mother-daughter situations where Cheryl should write her own book, honestly. She had the first women's scholarship for athletics in the NCAA. She got the track coach at Indiana State. She just kept showing up to practice with the men, and he ended up giving her a scholarship. Awesome. And she ran. She was the first woman to get a scholarship in the NCAA. She went on to run a women's world record. She patented the first sports bra. So nice. She started making equipment because they didn't have equipment.
You didn't know that. That's awesome.
That's fascinating.
And if you read her story, the most jaw-dropping thing was the headline when she ran the world record for the marathon was "Pretty Cheryl Likes to Run." And the inside of the article gave her measurements and talked about how she could be a flight attendant or a teacher or a model, but she chooses to run. So
out of that era now.
That's like a parody. That would be like a parody article now. Like that would be something that no one would take seriously at all. Like, that's incredible. So
it's just crazy that, like one generation back, that was their reality. And I saw that even with my mom. My mom played, went to an all girls Catholic school, and they had basketball and softball, but they had to make their own uniforms and then rent them back from the school. And I think she would have been a great athlete, but she just didn't have the opportunities. So just seeing what Cheryl had to go through, and then with her daughter having all the like as much opportunity as she needed, like she was able to go on and win a medal at the Olympics, third win the New York City Marathon, like do all these amazing things and not have to deal with the hurdles that her mom had, so her mom really paved the way for her. So I think that was interesting. I think the early like pioneers in our sport, their stories are so powerful.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you kind of stole with your answer my question that I want to ask. So what interview sticks with you the most that you did? You have one. Is it, talking to Cheryl? Was that like your one, or is there another one that kind of, sticks with you the most out of the 80 interviews that you did?
Well, I think this one will go well with New Jersey athletes, but Hazel Clark was a big one for me. And like, my husband and I know the Clark family really well, and we've like competed with them for a long time. And you just saw them, and you felt like they were unstoppable, really. And it was amazing to watch them with their dad's history and everything. Yep. And they go to they like Hazel, when she drank, she just looked stone cold, like nothing could stop her. And what was interesting in the interview is that she talked about how she had so much anxiety when she would run that she'd often not want to even be on the line.
Wow.
And even at the Olympic trials, it took a lot for her to get up there and even run. And so she felt like that hindered her performance. Even though she ran these incredible times, she felt like if she would have been able to like figure that out and talk to someone about it, she could have run even faster. So I think it's really good for athletes to understand that that happens at every level, and that that even the Olympic champ, or like the Olympic trials champ or US champ, is struggling with similar issues to the common runner.
Yeah. That's amazing. So if you haven't already piqued your interest yet, male, female, it doesn't matter. How She Did It is a book that you should go pick up, especially if you're just a fan of the sport, because I feel like unique to our sport and maybe some individual sports that go for speed or things like this, like you with swimming and stuff like that. Like, as long as you're giving 100%, it doesn't matter if you're the Olympic champ or you're that freshman in high school just running first. The pain is the same. Now, obviously, the Olympic champions, your elite runners handle it much better, which is why they'll go on PRs and then they'll jog 9 laps in victory. And they're not dying on the ground. But still, the pain that we experience, a lactic acid buildup, all the things that a novice runner goes through, an elite runner goes through. So I feel like that pain kind of is what brings our community together. And a book like this, where you could just read about the trials and tribulations and get a handbook that I think, not only for young ladies, would be good for any athlete trying to enter into track and field. So definitely go pick it up. It's inspiring work. It's fantastic work. You and Molly are awesome. So love that. I love it so much. Thank you.
No, thanks so much. Yeah. So, I coach both men and women, and my men I gave a copy of the book to all of my men on my team too. So it like translates
absolutely
to both sides.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it has to do with women, but every story in there is inspiring to male, female, doesn't matter. It was just a phenomenal read. So we wanted to get into next. Where do you see the state of the American women's distance running at this point? I feel like some of the, like, Molly's great, you were great, but there's a new torch that's being passed to some of these, like your Caitlin Tuohy's and stuff. How do you think the women are doing now in the distance running, and are there any young talent out there that you think that you expect really big things from?
I think women's distance running is so exciting right now. I think we're taking it's almost growing exponentially in terms of the times that they're running and the talent that we have now. I think part of that is women's running is so young. Like, as you can see on the timeline in our book, they weren't we weren't in equal events really on the Olympic level until 2008 when they added the steeplechase. And so,
crazy.
And the NCAA, same thing. It's, I think it was 2000 when we started having equal events. So it's, and coaches are learning how to coach them, coach the women just as well as the men. And so we're getting girls that are having longer careers and better performances. There's more, we're seeing women run into their late 40s with Sarah Hall. Edna Kippelgott just got crowned the Boston Marathon with the drug accusations recently. So it's crazy. When I was retiring, if you were running to your early 30s, that was big. Now it's 40s is like the new 30s, and you're seeing women continue to improve in the sport. So get stronger and stronger. And you're seeing and I think that's important with these young girls that are getting into the sport, to understand that taking care of your body early on is really, really important so that you can have these long careers. And even if you're not going to have the long career, if you want to be able to run the rest of your life and have a healthy lifestyle. So I think it's exciting. I think the NCAA times have improved so much. Making it to the NCAA championships is so much deeper now and faster than it was 10 years ago. The professional times, the women trials qualifiers, like it's moved, like I think it's 6 or 7 minutes faster than it was 4 years ago. And we already have 100 qualifiers. So we're getting a lot more depth, and we're seeing women stay in the sport longer, and how, I think it's very inspiring.
I think too, another thing we're seeing is I feel like, and I'm guilty of this when I was younger too. Like I think a lot of guys are so focused on, what the men's thresholds are, right? Like break 5 minutes, the sub 4:30 and things like that. I think we're starting to realize much more as it gets more elite and starting to respect more some of the great women's times, right? Like we're starting to see so much more women in the mile run 4:35, run these extremely fast times. And, I think that it's come a long way. And you mentioned how there wasn't an equal footing in terms of the events being competed with women for the longest time. And I just think that we're seeing a lot more respect being given to these extremely fast women that, unfortunately, I don't feel that maybe you got for some of your incredibly good performances, because there was just much more of a highlight on, what the men were doing and the men's fastest times, where we weren't giving as much of an emphasis where we should. And I think that's starting to come a long way now as you get a lot of your stars, your Sydney McLaughlins, your, in the hurdles and things like that, a thing Mo. And we're starting to really see just the popularization of how fast and how great these women are. I think it's a great thing that we're seeing now.
Yeah, I think the women are just as marketable or more marketable as the men now. And I think track and field, honestly, is one of the most equalizing sports in terms of coverage and marketing opportunities, and like equal pay and prize money, equal, like the only thing that's not clear always is the contracts. But when it comes to like prize money and opportunities, like men and women are getting the same. So I think that's really awesome in our sport compared to other sports.
So I also feel that there's an influx of new younger coaches like your Ritzenheims who are really there to promote men and women, and they don't care either way, and they have such a better grasp of, like you mentioned earlier, you might have to coach a woman differently than a man, or vice versa. So I think a lot of this influx of new younger coaches has really been a very positive thing for track in general, and especially for women athletes.
Yeah, I think we've got a younger group of coaches. We have some coaches that have been there for a while but are learning and adapting to I think you always have to be willing to learn in this sport. And so like we're seeing that with a lot of the coaches that have been there for a long time too, like even like a Ray Tracy or Mark Wetmore, they're continuing to have a lot of great success. Like Ray Tracy at Providence has been coaching, I think, equally as long as Mark, and he's having Emily Sissons breaking the American record. He's still having American record holders and NCAA champs. So yeah, the people that are doing it are learning to adapt and be really good men and women's coaches.
And you coached over at the collegiate level. You coached men and women. I coached for a little bit over here at Marist, and I do notice that, maybe you did as well, there aren't as many female coaches. It's still a very male dominated area with the coaches. Now, why do you think that is? Are there not as many women that are interested in jumping into coaching at that level, and even at the high school level? It's a lot of guys. It's less women. So, and we see like, women's basketball, there's a ton of successful women's coaches and things like that, and all around the sports world. So I don't know if you have an answer per se, but like, where are more of the women that are interested in jumping into these positions?
I think the hard thing is the schedule, with track, with cross country being, and this was the main thing for me. And I've seen it with a lot of women. It's the schedule and the pay. And so, you're in season cross country, indoor and outdoor, and you're often traveling almost every weekend or every other weekend. Yeah. So if you if you're going to have a family, it becomes really difficult to do that unless you have like a significant other that can like pick up the slack while you're gone all the time. It's also like if you want to, if you're going to take a job, like you have to find the right place where your significant other can work as well. And that happens on the men's side as well.
Yeah.
But you often have to take a job that you're not going to make a ton of money. Like you either go to a place like where you really want to be and you're close to family and it works for your family, or you have to like move to make more money. And so you have to make those sacrifices, but you also have to look into like, how is that going to work with the rest of my family or my husband or, you know, like my partner, like how are they going to make that work? And often I think, it just becomes too difficult with sharing. Like, I think still like mostly women are the, main parent, like, or want to be like, I had trouble like not
Well, my kids like my wife much more than they like me. It's just,
and that's honestly, not always the case, but it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult. And so what I saw is I was missing more events. I was missing my kids' events for my athletes' events, and that just started eating at me. I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for women. Like, people want to hire women. It's not a lack of opportunity. But it's just like, you have to find a place. Like, I was very lucky. I think I stayed the amount of time that I did because I had a head coach that, gave me flexibility. As soon as I started the job, like when I started the job, my daughter was 4 months old, and, he didn't require me to be in the office to do my paperwork and recruiting. So outside of practice, I could work from home. And I'm a diligent type A. So like I was still getting work done and I got a lot of stuff done, but, not all coaches are like that. Some coaches don't feel like work gets done outside of the office. And so they want you in there. So I was very grateful for that. And he cared, like my administration and, my head coach knew like how important family was, and it was important to them too. So that's not always the case at schools. And so that can be difficult as well.
Certainly. So my next question jumps in, I think might fit in well with what you were talking about with the pay and stuff with coaches and things like that. What can we do to get the sports popularity up? This weekend, it was either NBC or CBS, I forget which one. They had the New Balance Grand Prix on. It was a great meet. I have no idea how many people watched it. I didn't look at the key demo stats or things, but can't imagine it's super high. Like, you know, people, if you like track and you find it, you're watching it, you're invested. But it's still not a very, like, unless I flicked on my TV and found it, I didn't really know that the Grand Prix was going on. You know, I kind of find out about these meets scrolling through Twitter and I see someone did something and then I go search it out. What can we do to kind of get this sport more popular so that more people have more eyes to these big meets, whether it be collegiate, whether it be pro level?
I think like we have to somehow connect to the fan base. Like there needs to be a connection. Almost every person has competed in track in some event. And there's a track event for almost for every person.
Yeah.
So making it relevant to people is really, really important. I think they do a really good job, and people talk about this in Europe. Like when you go to track meets, it's like a 3-ring circus. There's things going on all the time, but they also like explain it. They have cameras set up that show the actual speed and compare it to like an animal or different things, so that like when you're watching TV, you understand how fast that person is actually running, how high that person is jumping, like that person, the high jumper is jumping, or the pole vaulter, like how many buildings are they jumping over at that time, and how is that relevant? So like when you're just watching a track event, it's pretty boring on TV because they don't really relate it to the common person. The common person doesn't understand what's actually going on. I also think like there's no ties to like everybody's wearing an Adidas or a New Balance or, like the sponsor's jersey, but like no one outside of track and field really understands what that means. So like, right. I don't know, like having like a team or having some sort of affiliate, like where people can connect with that person and understand that person outside of, because if you're watching on TV, how do you like, you don't know, you can't really follow them on, you could look up their names, I guess, on social media and things like that, but you don't have any really connection with them. So I think they need to figure out a way to connect the athletes with the viewers and also make it relevant to the viewers of actually what's going on and make them understand how amazing the things that they're doing right now in front of them on TV.
Yeah, like I remember we had on Keevis Robinson, and he mentioned even having like teams from like certain, like, all right, here's our Northeast team, so like people in that area can root for that team going against South or West, and like, but there'd be certain ways, like, all right, you have to be born in one of these states to be on this team or whatnot, just to kind of so people can follow them throughout the years. And my other thing is, I know most people hate it, but that's the one thing I feel that track did better was put that little line, like the world record line as they're running. So the average fan can like actually, like in football with the first down. Well, that's what I'm saying, but it wasn't put there for people like us. It was put there so the average fan can actually have some sort of indication of how fast that this person's going based upon whether it's the meet record, the world record. So I thought that was actually pretty cool to get an average fan to understand more about pacing and like where they are, and they're actually watching that line, rooting for that person to kind of stay ahead of that line. So I thought that was
also
cool. Go ahead.
Also betting is something that would be fun in track and field. They do
my
that.
God.
Absolutely.
One of the best.
They do that in Europe. You can do that. You can bet on athletes, and you can do it as sports betting, and it makes it, you're putting something on the line, then you're more invested in that person. Like you want to know, like you're going to research more on who's hurt, who's healthy, like look into those things. So, follow their career.
Let's go get track and field on.
But listen here, all of you guys, if any of you listen, Sara Slattery just gave that idea. So if any of you do it,
I'm no longer a coach, so I can talk about betting.
Yeah, you can talk about,
listen up.
That's a great idea, though.
That's one thing that I loved every year that the site Let's Run does. They always have like their Olympic competition where you have to pick the winners on them. It's a huge event that they have every year or every 4 years. But you're right. Like it would really be. I think that would be. You're the first person to actually mention that, and
people would invest in it. People would invest in that sport because then they would look up what have they done in their last 5 meets. It would be like a horse race, honestly. Like not to dehumanize these people, but it would be similar to horse racing in the sense of how have they been in this event, their last few races, what have they been like have they had any injuries? And
it's more fun though because they're human. So
exactly.
You know what? I think you actually touched on more than, and I appreciate everybody else's opinions, but I think you may have actually touched on the thing that would really propel this sport to the forefront. And, so Sara Slattery had that idea again, everyone. I'm putting it out there. That is her idea. Give the young lady some credit. But
that's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So on that high note, Sara, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I'm glad I got to meet both of you. And I'm going to continue listening to hear the PRs and encourage all the athletes to keep working hard.
Great. Dave, do you have anything before we go?
No, I mean, we've been doing this show like 7 or 8 months, and just the fact that we've had on both Slattery's is pretty awesome. I ran against Steve in high school. I followed his career, followed Sara's career, and it's just really neat that we have all these wonderful guests on. So thank you for coming on. And the way that this book, I feel, is going to inspire a whole generation of young women and men too. Kudos on that book. It's fabulous. It's honest. It's raw. It's educational. It has so many wonderful different components to it that it's just a fantastic book. So thank you for even putting that out there for everyone to read.
No, thank you so much. That was our goal is really to help those younger athletes continue to love this sport and be in it for a long time.
Fantastic. All right. So once again, she's Sara Slattery, a former pro runner, extremely successful NCAA, four-time NCAA champion, 10-time All-American, like you heard her say. And the thing that she's done now, as we have alluded to give back to the sport, co-authored a book with Molly Huddle, how she did it. Great for athletes, coaches alike, probably to pick up too, to learn how to coach a little bit better when they heard some of these trials and tribulations. So everybody go pick it up. We will be back again next week. Again, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials. We appreciate everyone for listening. See you all next week.